Blood Money episode 24 with Andrew Serafini, and we discuss cannabis science, Jesus, and healing. All right, you're on the next episode of Blood Money episode 24 with Andrew Serafini, and we're going to discuss cannabis science, Jesus, and healing. How you doing, Andrew?
I am doing well, Vim. How about yourself, bud?
Good. I'm going to hit you with a trick question. So the title of this episode, it was inspired from learning about you, learning a little bit about your background history. And so the trick question is, how do we arrive at this juncture where we have a title called Cannabis Science, Jesus, and Healing? What brought us to this juncture where, as far as I'm concerned, that kind of encapsulates some of the messages of your bio?
Absolutely. And it's really a great question. And I ask myself that a lot. It's interesting because when I ultimately wanted to be a pastor and wanted to lead men, and so I've been through Bible college and I'm ordained minister. And as I really started to understand, really, my wife got really sick, who was my girlfriend at the time. And so this was several years ago. And so we started to really look at how we could heal the body. And so ultimately, after 32 doctors and trying to find answers in Western medicine, we simply couldn't find solutions. And so my girlfriend, who's now my wife, was working for the first CBD company in the United States that had gone state to state legalizing CBD, essentially establishing that if it was extracted from the mature stalk in the seed and it was less than 0.3 THC, then technically it was a legal product. And so as we started to really look at cannabis medicine and used intentionally for the right reasons, the treasure trove of healing is absolutely, it's bottomless. CBD has been shown to heal more than 50 health conditions. And so we see this broad spectrum application in terms of really bringing the body back into a place of homeostasis or balance. And so I kind of had this very interesting conversation and prayer with the Lord. I said, Lord, I'm the farthest thing from where I thought I would be in pastoring and leading men. I am now in hemp. And the answer came back very clearly is when I was the Son of Man and I was on the planet Earth, I had compassion on the people and healed the sick. And so our job has been to ethically and responsibly advance this work and share the truth, share what's been propagandized around cannabis, just like we're seeing in COVID-19 and all this other garbage that we're all being sort of exposed to right now. The same stuff has happened around nutrition. The same stuff has happened around cannabis medicine. And so having an understanding of how the body works and really digging into the truth is where I got to here. And so if we can help people with their physical ailments and their physical condition to have a vertical relationship with their creator, it makes it that much easier when someone's not struggling with chronic pain, anxiety, sleeplessness, or some aggressive disease that's debilitating or paralytic at the same time.
Yeah. One quick note I want to say. So, Andrew, you guys are going through a storm because your audio is a little bit there's a little bit of feedback, but you guys got a storm out there, basically, right?
It's been raining for 2 days straight. The power went out right before this show started. So there's a possibility that the power may go down again. Okay. We're in a little bit of a wonky transmission. So please forgive me.
Yeah, no, all good. With active gods or, active God is out of our hands. So now the thing that's really fascinating to me is all these natural holistic applications. I know a little bit about CBD and cannabis, which we should circle back to. But tell me, could you take like 5 natural supplements that, you've used for holistic purposes or recommended for holistic purposes that you know about? That might be foreign to the viewer. I mean, I know there was something called chlorine dioxide or chloride dioxide that I saw on your website.
Yes, and I'm so glad you asked. CDS or chlorine dioxide is really a burgeoning therapeutic that's really starting to hit the mainstream media, and it's been demonized very, very significantly. If you remember when President Trump got coronavirus, he was telling everybody about hydroxychloroquine and a compound called chlorine dioxide, and they absolutely slammed him for drinking out of aquariums and drinking bleach, and it's literally the furthest thing from the truth. And so I've spent about 1,000 hours plus in getting certified and understanding the therapeutic application of chlorine dioxide. It's a very simple and effective compound that's cheap, that actually heals the body, and it oxygenates the blood and tissues. So what we're dealing with right now in this whole COVID ecosystem is really the oxygen is being pulled from the blood. So if we can oxygenate the blood and the tissues, remove some of these heavy metals that are being essentially not only injected in these vaccines, the aluminum and the other adjuvants, but we're also being exposed to heavy metals the stuff that's being sprayed in the air, what we cook with, deodorants, cosmetics. It's literally in everything. And so the symptoms that have really increased, and there's been a huge uptick in neurological complications, brain fog, lethargy, prions disease. A lot of these conditions are really starting to not only become more significant, but they're becoming more and more common. And so things like chlorine dioxide help to keep the body in a more purified state, helps to keep the blood clean, but also removes even things like glyphosate. Dr. Stephanie Seneff has done a considerable amount of work understanding what glyphosate is, and that's the stuff they spray on all the wheat, and it's in Roundup, right? And so glyphosate it just wreaks havoc on the body in terms of our natural defenses, and chlorine dioxide actually helps process that compound, move it through the body, so the body stays in this functional sort of place of equilibrium. Because when the body's in balance, disease is unable to manifest, right? And so at the end of the day, it's inflammation that's really driving disease. So if we can manage inflammatory processes, cardiovascular function, and really support the body from a nutritional standpoint, we've got a fighting chance to really win this thing. And we don't have to roll up our sleeves and take some poison or some, Paxlovid or some drug that's been proven to be problematic and essentially isn't good for bringing the body back into a place of healing or stability.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I actually kind of went into the whole CBD world a little bit a few years back because I was very fascinated by the healing qualities of CBD, and what I realized is that the powers that be, whether it's Amazon, whether it's a credit card companies, I mean, they go to like all the extents to make sure that they make it really difficult for people to sell natural supplements.
You're absolutely right. In fact, when we got started in this, Vim, I grabbed my wife's hands, and we knew it was going to be a challenge. One, because we're really educating the healthcare professional, the practitioner, the doctor, those that don't have a real understanding of cannabinoid medicine. And so in 1992, the discovery of the largest receptor system in the body, which is called the endocannabinoid system, really came to the forefront. And so it takes about 15 to 17 years for these discoveries to really begin to hit the medical literature. And so a lot of the traditional medical schools are now beginning to teach on cannabinoid medicine, on cannabis pharmacology, understanding how we can target that endocannabinoid system it manages all of our physiological processes, our mood, our temperature, energy, pain, executive function. All of these are managed by this endocannabinoid system. So if we can really learn what we've done over the last 10 years is develop formulations that really target that system appropriately to provoke a specific health response. And when the body's in that equilibrium or in that place of balance or homeostasis, we're working in our optimal state, right? Not too much, not too little, but right where we need to be of maximum service.
I mean, what do you tell to people? Because I brought up topics like cannabis and CBD to some priest, reverends, that sort of thing. I mean, and gotten negative responses. What do you tell the people that are kind of a little bit more old school? I mean, you're combining the idea of church, Jesus, with cannabis science. Sounds pretty groundbreaking. But what do you say to some of these like old-minded folks that still see cannabis as I guess like equivalent of heroin or whatever classification the government used to give it?
And that's a great question too, Vam. And that's really been our driving force, is to educate and empower. So the Bible's very clear that my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. So one thing we really have to do is be open-minded to what's going on in the world right now. I think we've all gotten a dose of what we've been essentially conditioned to for the longest time with what's happening with COVID. And so people are starting to open their eyes to what the nefarious agenda has been, and it's truly been around economics, how big pharma can make money, and it's never really been about true healing and bringing the body back into a place of healing, because we're not good customers if we're not coming back. So ultimately, what I'm hoping and what we're conveying to the churches is there's more than 27,000 studies proving the efficacy of cannabis medicine. We also are looking at specific cannabinoids and terpenes that have also a very strong health response. So as we really bring valid information and show what really happened in the 20s and 30s when Rockefeller really jailed natural medicine, formulators, people that were teaching natural medicine in colleges, they essentially, rolled out pharmaceutical or petroleum-based medicines that were patentable, that were controllable, and essentially they don't ever treat root cause. They just mask symptoms. So it's the perfect business model, right? I can control the patent work, I can control the flow of business, and my customers will continue to come back because they're never ever going to get healthy. They're never going to get better. They may manage the symptoms, but it's only a matter of time before that root cause issue starts to poke its head up again.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what's interesting is, I heard there was a cannabis pharmaceutical drug. That was the only time in history that somebody would actually overdose off of cannabis, was when they made it into a pill form, and apparently somebody overdosed off of that. But when you take it in its natural form, that doesn't seem to be the case. I don't think there's ever been a overdose recorded in history from taking cannabis on its
That's
natural
correct.
level.
That's absolutely correct. And there never will be a death, because the receptors that exist for cannabinoids don't exist in the brainstem. So the probability of having a cardiorespiratory event simply doesn't exist. However, what you're talking about is the synthetic variations. They're making these things in a laboratory. So they're mimicking what the natural cannabinoids look like in a laboratory, and then synthesizing them and blending them into natural therapeutics to actually bring the cost of things down. And so drugs like spice that have provoked a tremendous amount of health issues and some deaths. But as far as the natural botanical of cannabis, it will never cause a death, because the receptors don't exist in the brainstem. So when we look at safety and we look at even the addiction potential, cannabis is the lowest out of all of them, out of alcohol, out of nicotine, out of even the recreational drugs. They say about 9% of people will have a psychological dependency to cannabis. It's literally the lowest on a number of levels in terms of addiction potential, and CBD has zero addiction potential. It's actually our bodies are designed to have an interaction with cannabinoids. So when we really look at the medicinal aspects of putting these things together in specific ratios, specific terpenes to really drive a health response, dude, the sky's the limit. And we've really seen the activity of this and having an advantage of having our products prescribed as a medicine in Brazil. For neurological conditions. We work with the top brain institute there. So we've really been able to see over the last 8 years how these products work for an array of different health conditions.
Now, terpenes wise, could you tell us a little bit about terpenes for people that don't know what terpenes are exactly?
Yeah, terpenes are a compound in the botanical, in the hemp plant, that give it its flavor, give it its odor. There's flavonoids that have flavor, but the terpenes really give it its odor. And there's terpenes like myrcene and limonene and beta-caryophyllene. These terpenes all have specific health benefits. Like limonene is really good for cognitive function. Beta-caryophyllene is found in black pepper. It's found in hops, and it has an array of health benefits. So when we put these compounds together with specific types of cannabinoid elements, we can really have a targeted response on what we're looking for as far as a health goal, depending on the person's physiology, on their age, and of course what their condition is. And so it really gives us some tools that we can combine different compounds to really drive the health response that we're looking for.
Could you give us some examples of people that you were, don't necessarily have to give any names or anything, but people that had certain ailments and what they used and how they improved?
Yeah, I mean, so really CBD got its notoriety for treating intractable seizures. Lennox-Gastaut and Dravet syndrome are both intractable seizure syndromes that Western medicine doesn't have an answer for. And so CBD really came to the forefront, and they've actually approved a drug called Epidiolex. That's Big Pharma's, first answer to a naturally CBD developed product that's been through pharmaceutical, clinical stage 3 clinical trials. And so as we've really focused on understanding the neurological impacts, but also the musculoskeletal impacts, from different conditions, not only from chronic pain and anxiety, but also Parkinson's, PTSD, high blood pressure, basically any sort of aggressive condition that has that's CBD will have an impact and have a favorable one. Even cancers, there's a synergy with specific types of chemo. I just finished a white paper on how CBD interacts with morphine and pain and opiate products. So we have a huge opioid epidemic on our hands, and fentanyl is being ushered into this country like nobody's business. So we've seen a huge category of people that are trying to get off of these opiates, and we found that in combining cannabinoid medicine, even with opiates, there's a potentiating effect. So we can reduce the amount of narcotic immediately and start to titrate up the cannabinoid, and usually within 4 to 6 weeks, we can have people completely off the opiates and just managing their pain with natural therapeutics that are actually bringing the body to a place of vitality rather than being constipated and full of side effects from opiate-based, medicines.
Wow, that's amazing. And you guys have been successful in getting people off of opiates using CBD as a transitional supplement.
Absolutely. And in fact, there's more than 33 states now that have either recreational or medical cannabis programs. In those states, we're seeing a marked decline in overdoses, upwards of 25 to 30%. So people that
Wow.
actually are, whether they get past the hesitancy and try cannabis for the first time or whatever their situation is, we're seeing a significant drop in overdoses because people are getting, our bodies are designed to have these cannabinoids. And as they have that interaction, their pain comes down, their inflammation comes down. And CBD and cannabinoids are referred to as an epigenetic. So it actually expresses health genes while reducing the inflammatory processes that keeps our
Wow.
body in that place of balance. It's
Wow.
fascinating.
You went to school for all this.
I did. I've studied it considerably. So, over the last 10 years, I went through the Robert Larner College of Medicine at the University of Vermont. I've been through several institutions looking at cannabis pharmacology, cannabis medicine, polypharmacy, how these compounds work with pharmaceuticals and chemo. And it's really been an honor to, one, stand for something that seems to be so demonized and people don't understand it. But really to have a mission of bringing forward truthful and integrity-driven information that as people come to the end of their rope and they don't have solutions, and unfortunately, cannabis traditionally seems to be the last line of defense when it should really be the first. And so as we educate and we show people that the body can heal, we don't have to be on 15 medicines or even any medicines to heal the body. It really gives the end user an advantage in understanding, wow, at the end of the day, cannabis is just food. And so we're giving the body the essential nutrients it needs to have the environment to actually heal the body.
Yeah. I mean, for the viewer, as you notice what's been happening this last couple of years, they just want to inject you with their pharmaceuticals. They want to give you their poison, whatever that poison may be. And the COVID-19 vaccine is definitely not the first. I mean, there's a long history of them trying to poison us, deform us, kill us, make us into drug addicts. I mean, just all kinds of awful stuff. And on the counterbalance of that, you have, they're trying to demonize all these natural supplements. And this is why it's so hard to find out about this stuff. That's why when you say something about was it chlorine dioxide or chloride dioxide, I'm just fascinated because you see this stuff on the shelves, but a lot of people don't understand, how they could replace what they're taking, whatever poison that they're taking with these natural supplements. Is there a couple more that you want to kind of mention? I'm sure our viewers would love to hear about natural options for whatever the ailments they suffer from.
Yeah, so ultimately they've been able to find over, let's just call it the COVID era, over this last 3 years. And it's important, Dr. Judy Mikovits is my godmother. And so as we really pulled the curtain back in medicine and understanding the not only the nefarious, but corrupt to the core of how medicine has been essentially advanced, it became indicative to us that we really had, not only do we need to educate, but really provide solutions for people to have access to. So they found that most people that have their vitamin D and their glutathione levels are supported properly, usually they won't even know that they've been hit with some sort of sickness. Their immune system will just kick it off. And so they found that vitamin D, specifically if it was 47 nanograms and higher, that your immune system has enough juice to just kind of kick off whatever is impacting it. And glutathione is our natural defense center. And so we see a lot of people that are having issues with long-term illness. Their hair is falling out, skin issues, nail issues, whether they've been jabbed or they've been shed upon. Glutathione is absolutely critical. And so there's 3 amino acids that make up our glutathione production. That's glycine, cysteine, and glutamine. And those 3 amino acids, when they're taken in their raw format, actually give our bodies the functional stability to produce its own rather than taking it cellularly. So there's some different ways to ingest these different natural therapeutics, depending on the person's physiology, depending on the person's immunocompromise, if they have them or not, lifestyle factors, those sort of things. But vitamin D and glutathione are really key components to sustainable health. And one other thing that's not natural, but it's more of a pharmaceutical medicine is ivermectin. And ivermectin is not only probably safer than aspirin, it's been written 4 billion times with very few adverse effects. And the reason I mention this compound is it's key, especially in the synthetic nightmare that we find ourselves in with these injections and mRNA technology. we call it vitamin I, but ivermectin actually inhibits the ACE2 pathway. It binds to the spike protein. It's hugely anti-inflammatory and has about a dozen different cancer studies showing its efficacy for breast cancer, ovarian cancer, a number of different conditions relative to aggressive cancers and also parasites, right? So we're always looking for sort of broad spectrum, therapeutics that do a lot, that are incredibly safe for the body and don't have side effects that we see on TV with some of these pharmaceutical medicines where they're roller skating through the park and then they tell you, and the side effects include blah blah blah, on and on and on, and usually they have heart attack or some sort of key side effect. That who wants to even play Russian roulette with some of this stuff,
Yeah. I mean, in our interview, we did an interview with Dr. Peter McCullough for Blood Money episode 18, and one of the things he mentioned, which I think, I guess, really emphasizes how that our government and medical industry really doesn't care about us, is the fact that somewhere upwards of 5 million people would have been saved if ivermectin was not demonized. Over 5 million people died because of the demonization of ivermectin.
I believe that. I probably think that number is fairly, it might even be low. When we saw the death ticker, and they were constantly, expanding that thing and trying to drive fear, and then of course inhibiting the ability to get to certain things. They've made this so challenging that even with like Dr. Judy, we had to buy $20,000 worth of her books just to get them out to events and get them out because they were censoring them so badly. So when it comes to truth, there are many enemies to getting the truth out, and the opposition the other direction is in full force right now. And I love the name of your show is Blood Money, because it says in the Bible, it's the love of money, right, is the root of all evil. It's not money, but it's the love of money, right? And so we're really seeing that sort of manifest right now. It's been going on forever, but it's really become clear right now who's getting greased and who isn't, and who's willing to stand for truth at all costs for humanity. That's really at the end of the day here. It's God's greatest creation in humanity. And if we don't celebrate that and protect each other, we're going to get what's coming.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we're getting it right now. I mean, this is the fact that we're talking about that over 5 million plus people died for no reason because of the greed of pharmaceuticals, the greed of government, their lies. I mean, it's just absolutely disgusting and evil. And that's why I think it's important to talk about topics like this. Let's talk about your background, your journey to finding Jesus. You want to talk a little bit about how you arrived where you are today?
Yeah, and it's my love for the Lord is really because of what He saved me from. My mom passed away in 2012. She was over medicated by her doctor, and so the doctor had written her 9 months of Coumadin prescriptions without ever taking a blood test. And you're supposed to take an INR blood test every month. So by the 9th month, she had no hemoglobin left. She was essentially bled to death. And so that was sort of my first experience in seeing really what was kind of the Western medicine, some of the debacles that happened. And then, of course, meeting Dr. Judy, a couple of years later, it was really having my mind blown on what was going on in public health and in medicine and in science. But in that, when my mom passed away, she was the one that taught me how to serve Christ, how to serve an audience of one. And when she passed away the way she did, it really fractured my faith. And I ran the other direction. I didn't know how to reconcile my mom being essentially, killed by her doctor or medical negligence, and all the promises and all the things that she had told me about, and the promises to come that obviously didn't come to pass, right? Because she was no longer here. And so I spent almost 2 years really, really living to die. I was trying to expire, right? Whatever, I was using drugs, and I was, heavily addicted to pain medicines. I was dealing with a genetic health issue. And so it really became a perfect storm for me to check out. And one night when I had gotten home late, and I was heavily addicted to pain medicines, and I left about 1 a.m. to go meet somebody to pick up, some drugs. And I was running across the field, and I jumped up on this pillar to get over the fence. And as I got up on this pillar, which was about 10 feet high, it wasn't completely flat. It had a little slope to it. And I lost my balance and actually fell onto the fence and was impaled 10 feet in the air at about 2 a.m. And so as you can imagine, being hanging at a 90-degree angle, I was trying to pull myself up to somehow get the barbed, fence out of my legs. I mean, it was literally impaled in my calves and in my hamstrings. And I tried with all my might to kind of pull with my core strength. And I literally felt something lift me off. It was the only thing I can attribute it to as an angel or the Holy Spirit or something lifted me off of that fence.
Wow.
And I fell to the ground. And as I fell, somebody heard me screaming and stopped, driving by and called an ambulance. And it was at that point, at that juncture, I lost my phone. I lost all my money. I lost all my contacts to the outside world. And that was God's way of saying, you're done. You're absolutely done with this. And it was in that healing process that I gave my life back to Christ. And I said, Lord, I'll do anything. I'll do anything it takes. And he told me he said, I want you to focus on one word for this next year, one word only. And that word was discipline. Discipline to get up in the morning, discipline to do my Bible studies and to give him the first fruits of my life, discipline to eat right, discipline to do the things I knew to do that I did before my mom died, and re-implement those things to really bring Christ back into my life. And it absolutely just has taken off. So I went from literally zero in early of 2014 to where we are now, and bringing truth and bringing solutions. And we've helped thousands and thousands of people, Vem, with this whole when people were going in the hospital and being put on ventilators and remdesivir and literally watching 40 and 50-year-old, halfway healthy people not coming out of the hospital. It really became a mission, and it became a duty to try to provide as many solutions as we possibly can. And so we started a ministry called Light Dove Ministries, and it's a private sector ministry that essentially offers all the safe therapeutics. We offer safe spiritual healing and biblical instruction on really how we can heal the body spiritually. I mean, we can give ivermectin and natural supplements all day long, but if the soul isn't healthy, if the soul is sick, it really requires the spiritual connection to our Heavenly Father to have sustainable healing. And so we're really integrating all of these pieces and providing access to those that are their eyes are open and they understand that there are different options. We don't have to just go to the hospital and end up in these precarious spots, but we do have solutions that will help people stay healthy. And even in emergency situations can give them the tools they need to not have to end up in the emergency room and be put on remdesivir or some, nefarious protocol to take them out.
So if people are going through an ailment and they reach out to your church, you guys would help them?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, Our new platform is being built. It's lightdoveministries.com. And that website will be up here in the next probably 2 weeks. We've been working on it for the last 3 months, getting everything ready. And that will provide access for our members, right? So how this works, you've been to Costco before, you've got a private membership to go shop there. So you have access to their products at a wholesale price, and you have benefits there. So very similarly, we have a private membership association that offers health and safe therapeutics for our members. And it gives us the ability to have that interaction in a private capacity without the state or feds telling us what we can and cannot do. And so to have safe access to things like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, even CDS and other budesonide, other therapeutics that we know that work, it really gives the advantage back to our members so that we can stay out of the hospital, we can stay healthy, and continue to be of service to our Lord and Savior.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, I just haven't heard of a church where you usually go, they'll pray upon you, but they're not going to give you a bunch of supplements and natural or recommend natural products that will help your internal health.
We are in a completely different world, and so we are being poisoned on every front. The food is full of garbage. The stuff that literally is being sprayed in the air is nano aluminum and other particulates that are just full of heavy metals. So if we don't start to really move health into a priority posture in our lives, we're not going to make it. I mean, we're seeing now people are struggling daily with brain fog, heavy pain symptoms, and lethargy. A lot of the stuff.
Oh no! Did it cut out? It cut out. I think his electricity went out. All right, so we seem to have lost Andrew. Andrew's been in a region where it's raining heavily right now. There's been a very heavy storms, and the electricity's gone out a couple of times. It seems as though that's what might have happened. So if we don't get him back, we're going to get him back real soon when the weather's better in his region, because I definitely want to keep picking his brain about these amazing supplements, how to get our health back in order, and also the private membership association. He had pointed that out as a way of being able to communicate with people that are part of that membership association without the government sticking their nose in. And so that's something that we would love to talk about when he's back. But I have a feeling he is disconnected. And what we'll do right now is we're going to put up our. Is he coming back? Does he seem like he's not coming back? Okay. So yeah. So we're putting on a flyer here for Light Dove Ministries. Their contact info is on there. This is actually an event coming up. We highly encourage you to check it out. Check out lightdoveministries.com. And this QR code will get you right to their website. And unfortunately, we haven't gotten Andrew back. I have a feeling his electricity went out, so we're going to have to cut this episode short. But we will have him back very soon, and we will continue talking about all these amazing natural supplements to conclude this episode. Thank you so much for showing up for Blood Money episode 24, and we will see you very soon.